What tribute bands have you played with in the past?
Well, this is kind of a new venture for me. I think a couple years ago, I was asked to sub for a band called Whole Lot of Lead, and that was the first time I had played the John Paul Jones kind of gig, and then that led to another band, like Zeppelin. They called me, played a few gigs with those guys. I got a call from Zepagain. I played with a whole lot of lead. But this was just kind of a brief moment. I think within about a year, I played those bands, and then I got a call from Led Zepagain to sub for a gig at a Yamava casino, and I was very excited to get that call, and very intimidated to get that call. We never met, we never rehearsed. I showed up at the gig. We shook hands and we played. We played the whole night, and I thought it was a great experience. And at the end of the night, we all hugged it out, and well, I'm still here, so yeah, it worked out.
When you were a kid, was Led Zeppelin an influence to you?
Yeah, they were my first favorite band. You know, I grew up in a household with older siblings, and so there was always grown-up music being played in the house. Steely Dan and Elton John and Bowie and Traffic and Sabbath and Alice Cooper. These were all echoing through the hallways when I was coming up, but they played this one band, Led Zeppelin. The first album I heard was Led Zeppelin 2, and my gosh, ah, I was hooked. I was hooked on all aspects, the songwriting, the energy, the musicianship of each of the players. I would study all of them. Yeah, I was hooked. And then I went to Led Zeppelin 1 and studied that whole thing and House of the Holy. And yeah, it got in my blood early, and it shaped the way I played bass from then after. At an early age, like I said, I was playing with older players, and I got into this band. It was a cover band. I was age 13, 14, and they were playing a lot of Led Zeppelin. And back then, nobody really played Zeppelin on the local bar level. And we were playing Dazed and Confused live, the whole thing. And oh, yeah, that's the one band that got into my DNA, and it has never left. I've never grown tired of them, and I'm always amazed every time I hear them. Yeah, my first band that I was official in was when I was young, at 14, 15, and they were older guys, and we were going to be called Bermuda Triangle because that was all the mystery back then of the Bermuda Triangle. And then there was only three of us, so we just dropped the Bermuda and we were just Triangle. And we'd played kegger parties and bars and all that. And our guitarist, our Jimmy Page, was the star wide receiver of the high school football team. So we would pack them in. The whole high school would show up when we played. And like I said, I was underage, so we'd be playing bars. I'd have to sneak in the back door. And you know, back then, like I said, not a lot of people were playing Zeppelin. There was no YouTube. There was no instructional manual. People didn't play Zeppelin because Zeppelin was hard to play. It was hard to play and make sound good. And we had this knack. Our drummer sang and played the drums. And the three of us, we used to just tear it up. And we got a reputation. And it wasn't really a tribute band, but I guess in a way it was kind of my first tribute band. So yeah, it set me on the path to bigger and better things because it had such a powerful influence on me as a young man.
Doug, what techniques do you use to replicate John Paul Jones?
Well, like I said, it's been in my DNA since a kid, and I just kind of instinctually just feel them, and I can kind of play the lines. But when Led Zeppelin called, they have a much higher standard than a lot of the bands that I've played in. You know, when you play in the other bands, they're like, wow, great, it sounds just like it. But to them, it wasn't just like it. And they said, you know, we want to be as accurate as we possibly can. So I went back and listened. And you can find isolated bass lines on YouTube, and I also have software I can split the stems and just isolate John Paul Jones. And a funny thing happened listening back. I wasn't playing it right. It was close, but a couple of nuances and a couple of things that maybe as the bass and the guitars kind of intermixed in the mix, you didn't know which note each one was playing, and I I had to reevaluate my approach to John Paul Jones, and I really took it to heart, and I really analyzed what he was playing, and that is my goal now is to play it as accurately as he did, and with the same energy and gusto that he brought to the world and brought to me when I was a kid. That same undeniable energy that kept me going still to this age in Led Zeppelin.
Doug, did you ever have any formal training?
Oh yeah, I mean in school I was always in the band. I was in the orchestra. I played the upright bass in the orchestra. Played in junior high school, high school. I left the upright bass behind and I just focused on the electric. And I've played in several college jazz bands. I attended the Musicians Institute in Hollywood. Some of my classmates there were Paul Gilbert was one of my classmates. A lot of my teachers were like Joe Pass and Tommy Tedesco and just Jeff Berlin, just legends of the music business. And, I guess you never stop studying, really. You know, personal study is very important to me. I played in a lot of jazz bands around town, mostly big bands. Those are sight reading gigs. You have to read charts, and yeah, you kind of never. A true musician never stops being a student.
Doug, so tell us about the instruments that you play.
But yeah, so like I said, I play the bass. It's my main instrument. I played the banjo, mandolin, guitar. Um, I mentioned earlier that my mom wanted me to be a concert pianist, and I didn't really take to it. I had this piano teacher, and he was a very angry man. And if I didn't practice and play right, he'd rap my knuckles with a pencil. And one time he slammed the piano lid down. I got my hands out of the way. It was the old days. You could hit kids back then. It was all right. But the one thing he did teach me was this boogie woogie. You know, I never learned the classical and the Chopin and all the stuffy stuff, but that boogie woogie, it's set. It's stuck. And I learned that thing, and I could tear up and down the keyboard at a young age. If my parents had friends over, they'd always drag me up and wind me up like a little monkey, and I'd have to play the boogie woogie. And, oh, that's wonderful. And but that thing stuck. That kind of boogie woogie jazz blues thing. You know, if only they'd made the piano cooler when I was a little kid, I'd be a lot better of a piano player now. But the beauty of Led Zepagain is I get to play the Rhodes, the B3, the Mellotron, and all the different styles that Jones played. So it's just a blast to play in this band and finally realize the dream that my mother had of me being a concert pianist. I'm playing concerts, not quite a pianist, but she'd be happy for me.
What's been your favorite Led Zeppelin show so far and why?
Well, I think it was show number 2. We played in Los Alamos near Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was an outdoor show and an amphitheater. And in the early part of the day, there was nobody there. And we were a little worried. And at sound check, there was a violent monsoon came up. And we had to cover all the equipment. And rain was blowing sideways and thunder and light. They had to shut all the power off. Thunder and lightning. They almost called this the gig because of the lightning. Some of Anthony's equipment got wet and got ruined, and it dried up, and the crowd showed up, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. I had heard between 6 and 8,000 people showed up, and we had had our troubles. We'd had a brand new drummer. We didn't even rehearse with him. We picked him up in Arizona. And that was the first time we ever played with him. It was my second show, and we had a couple of hiccups here and there and timing things that I don't think anybody else noticed but us. But the crowd went crazy. They went nuts. I couldn't believe it. At one point, I'm playing Kashmir, and I could feel like bumping against my back. And I look, and it's two of the lady promoters that put this whole thing on, and they were dancing on stage behind me and crashing into me. So, yeah, it was the greatest experience I've had in a long time. So sometimes bad shows turn out to be great experiences, and that really was.
Tell me your reaction when you got that phone call from Swan.
Oh, I was elated. I had played a few shows with them, and I kind of had a hunch maybe they'd have me come on board full time. But when I got the call, I was just thrilled. I played professionally many years ago. I've been in bands that had record deals, and I've had MTV videos and toured quite a bit. And but then I kind of let it go, and I raised a family, and I got into business, and I did other avenues. I never stopped playing music. I never stopped writing, recording songs, kicking around town with other bands. But to be back in a professional touring band it just feels like it was meant to be. And I've kind of had this void in my life for a long time, just being a grown up. And now it's good to get back to being a kid again, and it feels great.
What was your family's reaction?
Oh, they were very happy for me. They've known my passion for music the whole time, and they've seen me, not the best of spirits over the years when I've had to, do jobs I didn't want to earn money. But I think they let me know they were just all thrilled about it. In fact, my oldest daughter didn't know that I was in the band. She had called and said, "Hey, are you guys going to go to this event with us?" And my wife said, "Yeah, well, I'm going to go, but Dad's on tour with the rock band." She's like, "What? When did this happen?" "Oh, yeah, you didn't know?" And yeah, they've all been very, very supportive. They're very proud of Dad. So yeah.
So what sets Zepagain apart from the other tribute bands out there?
Oh, well, there's quite a few other Zeppelin tribute bands out there. They're all very good. But what sets this one apart, their attention to detail and their energy they bring and the musicianship, and they get a real connection with the crowd, and they have a big following, and these people have seen them time and time again, and they come back for that standard of excellence. We just played a sold out show at the Coach House, and the people they're all wearing the shirts. It's fantastic. But I mean, I guess really the ultimate set apart is this has been officially knighted by Jimmy Page. He has recognized this band as the Led Zeppelin tribute band. And you just can't get any more tops than that.
How do you feel you've been received by the band and their families?
Oh, it's been a very nice transition. That first sub gig, I was very intimidated, and going into this thing, you don't know what to expect. These guys have been on top for years. They could have egos. They could be very particular. They could be insulting. I don't know how I was going to play with them. I don't know how they were going to receive me, and they couldn't have been more cordial. And they invited me in, and like I said, after we played that night, we hugged it out, and I felt a real connection to them. And it's been that way ever since. I've never felt more comfortable with the guys professionally and musically, but also personally. When you get in a tour van and you have to drive, long distances with each other, you get to know people, and they're just fun guys. And we don't just talk about Led Zeppelin and equipment and stuff. We've talked Irish history and religion and politics and, Felipe's beef dip sandwiches in downtown LA. And so it's just a real family feel here. And I couldn't be happier of being bandmates and friends with Led Zeppelin.
What are your thoughts about working with the best representation in the business, James Elliott Entertainment? Have you had a chance to meet James yet?
I have met James. He came down to that sold out Coach House show, and he's very nice, very cordial, very professional. My wife was talking to him, and she said he said he'd signed Sublime when he was working at the record company. So that kind of pedigree, he can be very particular about musicians, and he was very complimentary towards me and my addition to the band, and that was very comforting.
We know how you're going to balance professionally with the new band. How are you going to balance with your family and the new band?
Well, that's probably a question best asked of my wife. In fact, she's here. Why don't we bring her in? Robin, come in. Have a seat, my love.
Okay.
Everybody, this is Lady Robin. She's been my wife for 42 years. We've raised a family. We've built a modest empire. We've worked our butts off, and now it's time to rock. But let's hear what she has to say about it.
What do you need to know?
How do you feel about me being in a touring professional rock and roll band?
It's exciting. It's really fun, and the guys are amazing. Their families are amazing. Kids are amazing. We're just having a great time. We're having the time of our lives. They're
We
just
really are.
sweet. Yeah, they've taken us in, and it's been very comfortable.
It's
And
like
very
a second lease on life for us. It gets us out of our rat race, off of our hamster wheel, and it just
Yeah.
gets us on the road and living again.
Our kids are grown, so this time maybe I can jump in a little bit more and meet up with them, and it's just we're really looking forward to it. We are really looking forward to it.
Thank you for taking the time out for being here today. And do you have anything you'd like to say to the fans to close this out?
I would just say come out and see the band. I'm thrilled every night I get on stage with these guys, and I think you will be too. They're the greatest. Zeppelin's not coming back anytime soon, if ever. This is the next best thing. Come on out. You'll love it.
You'll love them.